Hi, I'm here with Dorothy, who was our plenary speaker this morning, Wednesday. Just a few questions, but would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself first?
Yeah, I started teaching English in Japan first, and I taught there for a number of years. Moved back to the U.S. I've taught in North Africa, again back to the U.S., and from there I began working more on materials. I moved into publishing, and I worked for Cambridge University Press as a senior development editor, and from there went freelance. And I now write, I edit, I publish my own materials, I publish other people's materials, and I do a lot of teacher training.
So you do everything, really?
We'll work for food.
Right, okay. And what's your relationship with IATEFL? What's your history with IATEFL?
This is my third IATEFL. I was at Manchester, and actually it was a publisher who brought me to, it was Macmillan who brought me to IATEFL Manchester to promote the series that was coming out. I was in Glasgow last year, self-funded, which was great fun,
I remember.
and then this is my third, and hopefully only only the beginning.
So how are you feeling, not specifically referring to the plenary, but in general, how do you feel about IATEFL this year? How's it going?
I think it's great. I think it's a smaller conference than TESOL, which is what I'm used to in the U.S. where I live, and it's a bit more focused, I think, and a bit more intense, and every exhibit in the exhibitors area is about books and learning, whereas TESOL has sort of expanded into Chinese acupuncture and handbags. Yeah. So I like that everyone is so sincere, and it's still very fun, but people are very passionate, and it's a nice crowd. It's a good vibe.
Yeah, good. And of course, your plenary so far has kind of been the talk of the year, the talk of the conference. How do you feel it went?
I said what I wanted to say, and I felt good about that. I mean, it's not information that a lot of people have outside of the small community of writers. Yeah. And somebody else told me, because I can't hear everything that the crowd is saying. I can hear big laughs at a joke or something, but not the sort of whispering or buzz. And somebody said they were sitting around a lot of teachers and they heard people say, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't realize that." And there's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, if teachers are using materials, they absolutely should know how they're created and what that piece of the puzzle is. And so that was one goal I had in the conference with that talk was to inform. I mean, obviously I think there's a problem that we all need to work on, but we all have to understand what the issues are before we can even begin to have that conversation. Yeah,
and of course you've been on the stand since, and you've been in your Q&A session just now. What's the kind of reaction, what's the feedback you're getting from teachers, authors, and of course people from the publishing industry?
I was joking to people before I gave the talk that that's the end. I'll never work again, and I noticed I know publishers attended the plenary, and I saw a number of them then heading down to the Q&A session, and several of them came forward and said that they appreciated what I spoke about, and of course they have their own viewpoints, but they did like the idea that the issue was out in the open and that we could talk about it. And I asked some of them, will you let me in my Q&A session refer to you by name as a publisher, and would you answer questions? And several of them said yes, by all means identify me as a publisher. And so we had some questions, why do publishers do this? And it was nice to have publishers there to say, well, I'll take that question and respond to it, because it really isn't an us and them. Publishers and authors have to be like this, and certainly publishers and teachers have to be together. And what I said in my plenary is there is no publisher who wants to produce a bad book or a book that isn't useful. Yeah. We all want to produce excellent materials. It's just how we make that happen. So my message to publishers was, please include us in the conversation about your business decisions. And I think that message was received better than I had feared, perhaps.
Okay. Certainly from the writer's point of view, it was well received. Yeah. And apart from your plenary, what have you attended? What have you seen? What is the one take-home, or the most standout take-home thing from the conference so far for you?
I don't know if I have a standout take-home yet. One thing that I noticed when I was in Glasgow last year, I was roped into doing a Pechakucha, and so I attended them again this year to watch. That changed the way I do presentations, and how many images I have versus how many words I have. Yeah. And it was nice for me to see that the presentation that I gave this morning was a lot more visual,
Yeah,
thanks
it
to
was.
what they put me through
Okay.
in Glasgow last year. And then,
Yes.
so to see the Pechacuchas this year, and I thought, oh, these are the next great speakers getting their training by trial by fire.
Yeah, yeah.
And then tonight I'm emceeing a quiz program on Brighton.
All right.
Unfortunately, I'm not answering the questions, but it's another thing I like about IATEFL is there are entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's unusual, I think, for large national conferences. And there is, a pub quiz, and there's all this different stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hate to say like the entertainment is my biggest takeaway, but it is influential
part of it,
on
isn't it?
my
Yeah.
professional life
Yeah, yeah.
as well as the connections I
Yeah.
make. So.
And there's still a day and a half, roughly, to go. So what are you particularly looking forward to in the next day and a half?
Well, I've got a booth in the exhibition center. IATEFL has been very easy to work with, actually, at helping small presses like me. I mean, I'm small, I'm 2 people, and completely independent authors who are only by themselves is finding a way to include us in the exhibition. So we're sharing a stand. We bought a double stand. We're sharing it with a bunch of people, and
because you're Ways Goose.
I'm Ways Goose Press. We've got Alphabet Publishing. We have Transform ELT. We've all kinds of different people there doing their little pieces, but
Yeah.
but we're right there in the center. We can talk to people, and I'm going to hang out and talk to people. And of course, after my session, I have a lot of people coming to me saying, I have this wonderful idea for a
Yeah,
book.
of course, yeah.
What do I do with it? Do I self-publish it? Is it more appropriate for a large publisher? And so I think I'll be having a lot of those conversations.
Exactly. Well, what if you were good to give? If you were going to give advice to a teacher who said, excuse me, can you just tell me how to get into writing nowadays? What would you
Well,
say?
it's kind of the Wild West. I mean, there's never been a worse time to be an author, and there has never been a better time to be an author. So it depends is about as specific as I can get. But that's why we have to have a conversation. What kind of book? Because some books are really best done by the traditional publishers. Anything that has
yeah.
a high art requirement or video requirement or a lot of components. If you have a small, quirky one-off book, you'd be looking at a micropress or possibly self-publishing. So someone looking to get into writing would have to get serious about who am I writing for,
Yeah.
and why am I writing it,
Okay.
and how am I different from other materials. The
Yeah.
same way we used to send proposals to traditional publishers.
Yeah, yeah.
We still had to address those issues and just think more critically about where does my book belong.
Mhm.
So, but the number of people wanting to learn languages has not decreased.
No, yeah.
The number of people who want to read materials has not decreased.
Yeah.
It cannot be a bad time to be a writer.
No.
And the sands are shifting, but so we've got to hold firm and make sure that we're working for fair terms, and I think it's still a great career.
Great, brilliant.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And that was Dorothy Zemach.